Have you ever had one of those days where everything feels dull, and no matter what you do, you just can't shake off the gloom? I was having one of those days. No motivation, no energy, just a lingering sense of negativity that wouldn't go away. But then I remembered something I had read about, the facial feedback hypothesis. The idea that simply changing your facial expression can influence your emotions. I decided to test it myself. Could forcing a smile actually make me feel happier? It sounded too simple to be true. But what happened next completely surprised me. The facial feedback hypothesis suggests that our facial expressions don't just reflect our emotions, they can actually influence them. In other words, if you smile even when you don't feel happy, your brain might start to think you actually are happy. This idea has been supported by various psychological studies, including research by Charles Darwin and William James, who proposed that emotions might be amplified by physical reactions rather than the other way around. One of the most famous studies supporting this theory was conducted by Fritz Strack and his colleagues in 1988. They had participants hold a pen in their mouths in ways that either mimicked a smile or prevented one. Those who smiled rated cartoons as funnier than those who didn't. This simple act of muscle movement seemed to trigger a change in emotional perception. I was curious. Would this work in real life? There was only one way to find out. I decided to spend an entire day forcing myself to smile, no matter what happened. I wasn't going to let my natural mood dictate my expression. Instead, I was going to trick my brain into believing I was happy. At first, it felt ridiculous. I caught myself grinning at my reflection in the mirror, feeling a bit foolish. But as I walked out the door, something strange happened. The smile I forced myself to wear made me more aware of my surroundings. The sun seemed brighter. The air felt fresher. My usual morning routine, which often felt monotonous, felt a little lighter. What shocked me the most was how people responded to me. I smiled at strangers, and many of them smiled back. I greeted my colleagues with a bright expression, and in return, they seemed more open and engaged in conversation. One coworker even commented,
You're in a good mood today.
even though just hours earlier, I had felt anything but cheerful. It made me realize that our facial expressions don't just affect us, they influence how others see us and interact with us. This created a feedback loop. As people reacted positively to my smile, I genuinely started to feel better. By midday, I noticed something even more surprising. My mood actually started improving. What began as a forced smile turned into a real one. I felt lighter, more positive, and less burdened by the small stressors of the day. It was as if my brain had been tricked into believing I was in a good mood simply because my face was acting the part. This matched up with what psychologists have found. When you smile, your brain releases dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin, chemicals responsible for boosting your mood and reducing stress. It turns out that even a fake smile can send signals to the brain that lead to real emotional change. While the facial feedback hypothesis has been widely studied, not all research agrees on its effects. In 2016, a major replication study failed to reproduce Strack's findings, leading some scientists to question how strong the link between facial expressions and emotions really is. However, more recent studies using neuroimaging have shown that facial expressions do activate emotional processing centers in the brain, suggesting there is still something to this idea. Whether or not it works for everyone, my personal experience was undeniable. I went from feeling sluggish and unmotivated to genuinely enjoying my day, all because of one simple change. So can forcing yourself to smile really make you feel happier? Based on my experience, yes. While it might not be a magic fix for deep sadness or serious emotional struggles, it can be a small but powerful tool to shift your mindset in a positive direction. Next time you're feeling down, try it. Force a smile, hold it for a few seconds, see what happens. You might just find yourself feeling a little bit better, just like I did.